KAPP-KVEW local news at 6:30.
Good evening. I'm Alyssa Warner in for Madeline Hagan tonight.
I'm Jason Valentine. I promise we'll have plenty of back-to-school stories coming up. But let's start with some really good news tonight. Benton Franklin Health District is reporting just 103 new coronavirus cases in the past 24 hours. And we've been seeing a steep drop in cases just since the beginning of the month. We're also seeing more and more people getting their first dose of the vaccine. This is the mass vaccination site in Kennewick that opened this week. Officials say more than 1,000 people got vaccinated just today. Most end up waiting about an hour from the time you show up to the time that you drive away. And they're asking that you be prepared for the wait. And as we've been telling you, vaccinations are by appointment only, and all the appointments for this week are already filled. You can check out our website, yaktrynews.com/vaccine, for everything you need to get connected.
And another step back towards normal. Kennewick middle schoolers and Richland 6th graders finally began hybrid learning today. Students spent 2 days in classrooms and 2 days learning at home. And this week, Pasco announced it's planning to start optional blended learning next month. Now, what that means is families in Pasco have until Friday to decide if they're going to start sending their kids to school in person or stick with online learning for the rest of the school year. And some students in the Yakima area actually got a snow day this morning because of scenes like this earlier today. But things did clear up pretty quickly here in the Tri-Cities. We got to enjoy some gorgeous sunshine by noon. So, Jason, what are we expecting tomorrow?
Okay, a much drier day, though we could see some kind of scattered showers at times. Let's take a look at the radar. And we saw some residual showers kind of moving on through as we moved into the evening hours. And they have mostly moved up to the north. So that is definitely good news. So as we look at our current temperatures, 39 right now in the Tri-Cities. We do have a little bit of wind that we just haven't seen in the past couple of days. As we head over to Yakima, Yakima was very chilly all day today. And again, we got a little less snow than the upper echelon. We were thinking we could have up to 3 inches. We didn't get that. We got about between 2 and 1, depending on your location. But just a little bit of wind kicking up there. But we have warmer temperatures on the way. I'll have your full forecast coming up.
Well, changes are coming to Yakima Valley Memorial Hospital's heart and vascular care that hospital officials say will improve local access to heart care. Emily Goodell has more.
The Yakima Heart Center will not exist as an entity after February 1st.
Most providers will stay at the same location, now called Yakima Valley Memorial Heart and Vascular. Officials say the new cardiac center will make up for many of the services lost when Austria Regional Medical Center closed last year.
All the procedures that are done in Seattle or anywhere else can be provided by Memorial, short of cardiac surgery. Memorial has committed to an increased investment in the cardiovascular care for the community, both through infrastructure, through equipment.
They've also hired 2 new interventional cardiologists and plan to hire another general cardiologist. When Yakima Heart Center integrated with Memorial about a decade ago, officials say most providers at the center supported the change.
Some of those providers sought a more independent path, a more private practice approach. And that's why they will be starting their own clinic separately.
The hospital says existing patients and services will not be affected by the transition.
The existing patients at Yakima Heart Center will have no interruption in their care. The big change is that we're going to have more providers and we're going to have more services.
In Yakima, Emily Goodell, KAPP-KVEW Local News.
Now, further information about the provider's departure and the new planned private practice was not available so far. We will keep you updated, though, at yaktrynews.com as we learn more.
To summarize this executive order, it's about jobs, good paying union jobs. It's about workers, building our economy back better than before. It's a whole of government approach. Put climate change at the center of our domestic, national security, and foreign policy.
President Biden signing a new executive order today that he says is designed to protect the environment, but not everyone is on board. Across the nation, several officials are applauding President Biden's executive order to halt new oil and gas leasing and his commitment to stopping climate change. Others are not so happy. KAPP-KVEW's Madeline Hagan tells us about the pros and cons to this order.
This executive order is broad, it is bold, It is necessary and honestly long overdue.
Aaron Weiss with the Western Priority Center in Colorado isn't the only one praising Biden's action. Governor Jay Inslee also applauded Biden's commitment to, quote, protecting scientific integrity.
It's going to require a lot of bold action. It's going to require coordination between the federal government, between states, between private landowners.
The order puts a 60-day moratorium on new oil and gas leasing in the U.S. Weiss says this will give officials some time to reevaluate the program.
Everyone has to get together to fix this broken system so that oil and gas companies are accounting for and paying for the full climate cost of extracting oil and gas from America's public lands.
But this doesn't sit well with many people. Recently, Representative Dan Newhouse signed a letter to President Biden stating the detrimental effects, like 1 million jobs gone. The letter goes on to state the action may conflict with federal law. Weiss says what this order does is aggressively address climate crisis in the U.S. Biden says he's committed to conserving 30% of our lands and oceans by 2030.
We're seeing species going extinct at an alarming rate. So by protecting 30% of America's land and water by the end of the decade, which is what scientists tell us has to happen, that's the only way to address the climate crisis and the extinction crisis at the same time.
Still, some members of Congress say during a pandemic is not the time to cut program funding or Americans' jobs. For KAPP-KVEW Local News, I'm Madeline Hagan.
Well, it's already been a wild week on Wall Street, and we're only halfway through. Stocks for some struggling companies have been soaring, and a website called Reddit might be to blame. So here's how it started. GameStop has been losing money and isn't expected to turn around anytime soon. Investors have been short selling the stock, which means they make a profit if it fails. But there's a page called Wall Street Bets on Reddit where people can get together and talk about the stock market. People there have been hyping GameStop, which means its stock price is actually going up almost 2,000% so far this month. And it looks like movie theater chain AMC could be next. AMC's stock more than doubled today, even though they're also struggling in the real world, of course, because of all the lockdowns in the past year. All right, still ahead on your only source for news at 6:30. Hear why a Yakima area company is now facing more than $150,000 in fines from the state, and this is not the first time they've been warned. Plus, we'll introduce you to a couple of remarkable young women who are some of the first to become Eagle Scouts.
KAPP-KVEW reminds you to help stop COVID-19. Wear a mask.